This is the DJI Action 6. It dropped just a couple months ago and honestly is already one of the best action cameras on the market. And this is the Insta360 Ace Pro 2, my all-time favorite action camera. Today we are putting them head to head in a full battle side by side with almost identical settings, testing them across pretty much everything. So what are we testing? Image quality, dynamic range, photos, microphone, low light, underwater specs, in-camera features, and a few extras you will see along the way. And yes, I'm a total pixel peeper. I'll tell you which one is better for my use case, but in the end you get to be the judge. This video is not sponsored by any of these brands, so everything you're about to hear is based on my real-world testing and honest experience. And no matter which one you end up choosing, I'll drop my affiliate links down below, plus a single collection link with my favorite action camera accessories that I personally use and recommend. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Cambodia and we are in the Sqaure. In this video we will test the new DJI Osmo Action 6 with the Insta Ace Pro 2, which is one of my favorite action cameras. How the Osmo Action 6 performs compared to Insta360 Ace Pro 2, which was released last year almost in April. This Sqaure island is not very well known by the tourists and it's a bit far away from the main land, and it has amazing white beaches. And at the moment we are in the Long Beach, Central Beach, they call it Central Beach, and as you can see the water is crystal clear here. For the sake of this video, I'll try to make the exact same settings. So at the moment I'm shooting in 4K 25 FPS. Both are on the high bit rate. Also Osmo Action 6 EV-0.3, Insta360 Ace Pro 2. 0 EV will be better to make this exact similar test. Osmo Action 6 has the standard one and the Ace Pro 2 has the vivid color profile. After DJI dropped that December firmware update for the Action 6, both cameras can now shoot 8K at 30 FPS. But let me be totally honest with you, 8K on both of these looks bad, like really bad. It feels more like a digital upscale than true clean 8K detail. To me, this is basically a marketing checkbox. Sounds amazing on the box, but in the real world, pretty much useless. So yeah, I'm not going to waste your time showing a bunch of 8K clips. We are moving on. The DJI Action 6 comes with the new 1/1.1 inch sensor, while Insta360 Ace Pro 2 has a slightly smaller 1/1.3 inch sensor. On paper that could give the Action 6 an edge in low light, but we will get to low light testing later, because honestly the biggest upgrade isn't just low light. The real upgrade is the sensor design. DJI did something no other action cam brands has done: variable aperture. Osmo Action 6 Pro is the first action camera with variable aperture. It can go from f2 to f4, and now I'm monitoring my screen on the Osmo Action 6. The aperture changing from f2 to f4, and it's very bright day today. Let me check. It is now showing f3, which makes the sun a little less brighter and gives you a bit more sharpness. On the other hand, the Ace Pro 2 has a fixed f2.6 aperture, but in a very sunny situations, Osmo Action 6 Pro puts the aperture up to f4, which gives a little bit more motion blur, little bit more cinematic look, as well as little bit more sharpness when you do vlogging especially. But here is the interesting thing. In all my testings, I never actually saw it jump to f4 automatically. The highest I've seen it go by itself was the f3. So from what I understand, if you want f4, you will need to select it manually. So yes, it's a kind of an auto aperture, but realistically it's more like auto between f2 to f3 with very small 0-1 increments unless you take control. On the Ace Pro 2 side, it's a more traditional setup. A classic 4x3 sensor with the 1/1.3 inch size and with a fixed f2.6 aperture. Now, what's the advantage of DJI's 1x1 sensor over a 4x3 sensor like the Ace Pro 2? Maybe a lot, maybe nothing. Let's find out together. Compared to Osmo Action 6 Pro Sqaure sensor, Ace Pro 2 has a 4:3 aspect ratio. Ace Pro 2 has also free frame mode, so this is also good for the people who wants to shoot for both Instagram and YouTube or YouTube Shorts. And now I'm comparing the FOV with both of them. Now I am cropping it for Instagram, and you can see which has a wider field of view. And now I'm cropping for YouTube, and you can see which has a wider field of view. So when you crop to 9:16 vertical from their respective sensors, the Action 6 can deliver a larger field of view. But if you're adjusting for YouTube, the Ace Pro 2 can look wider, mainly because it has 157 degrees FOV compared to 155 degrees on the Action 6. And in general, 4:3 is a really nice format for reframing into 16:9. Bottom line, both are usable if your goal is one clip, multiple platforms. In custom Sqaure mode, or I will say free frame mode, both cameras support horizon lock, meaning you can rotate the camera 360 degrees and the horizon stays level. Super useful. And both can do up to 4K 60 FPS with horizon lock. But here's the catch. Ace Pro 2 doesn't offer in-camera stabilization in free frame mode unless you export the footage through the mobile app or studio app. And the Action 6 can shoot now 9:16 vertically and natively without flipping the camera. The Ace Pro 2 doesn't have that option, so if you want vertical, you have to crop in editing from free frame or physically mount the camera vertically. Personally, I use this cage. It's from Ulanzi, and it has a 1/4 inch thread at the side, so you are able to mount it vertically. So I took this cage for a while. If I can find it, I will drop the link below. There's also something you should know. In the free frame mode, the Ace Pro 2 shows more noise in the highlights compared to the Action 6. And yes, it is visible to the naked eye. Field of view. On the paper, the difference is tiny. Action 6 has a 155 degrees field of view, while the Ace Pro 2 is slightly wider at 157 degrees. Sound basically identical, right? But in real world, that's not what you see. When both cameras are set to their normal stabilization modes, the Ace Pro 2 actually looks noticeably wider than the Action 6. Even when you crank stabilization to the highest settings for both, the Ace Pro 2 still keeps a wider field of view. That's impressive. Now, I personally prefer distortion-free modes. No, not the dewarp or linear modes. Now, both cameras have different options for wider field of view with less distortion. A mega view on the Ace Pro 2, natural wide on the Action 6. And this one is the comparison between the Mega on the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 and the natural wide on the Osmo Action 6. Which one has a wider field of view with lesser distortion? Using the same stabilization settings, scene after scene, the field of view on the Ace Pro 2 looks wider. That said, overall, if we are picking a winner purely on FOV, Ace Pro 2 wins. But what about stabilization? Both of them are in the ultra wide view, and it is a little bit shaky here. So which one has better stabilization and which one has a wider field of view? And both have the normal stabilization, by the way. They don't have the extreme stabilizations. On shaky roast, the Ace Pro 2 handles stabilization slightly better than the Action 6. The stabilization algorithm on the Ace Pro 2 seems a bit more efficient, meaning less crop, more stability. Now look at this scene. Here the difference is obvious. The Ace Pro 2 looks super smooth while the Action 6 struggles to keep things better smooth. Here's what things get interesting. The Ace Pro 2 does not support horizon lock at 4K 60 FPS. It tops out at 4K 30 FPS. Because of its Sqaure sensor, Action 6 supports horizon lock up to 4K 60 FPS, and depending on your shooting style, this can be a huge deal. Look at this scene. I'm using horizon steady on the Action 6 and the horizon stays beautifully balanced. On the Ace Pro 2, I'm struggling to keep the horizon level because I'm bending down toward the ocean to grab the shot, and that's not easy without horizon assistance. You can clearly see the horizon tilting on the Ace Pro 2. Then I rotate both cameras, the Action 6 locks the horizon seamlessly and I appear perfectly upright. The Ace Pro 2 rotates, completely flipping the shot. If you're shooting 24, 25 or 30 FPS, the Ace Pro 2 still gives you full 360 horizon lock. But if you want 4K 60 FPS, the Ace Pro 2 loses horizon lock or horizon balancing completely. The Action 6 on the other hand offers full horizon lock at 4K 60 FPS and plus minus 45 degrees horizon balance at 4K 60 FPS with less crop. So yeah, no absolute winner here. It all comes down to your shooting style and what features you actually use. Dynamic range. Both cameras claim 13.5 stops of dynamic range, and in my testing that actually checks out. The Osmo Action 6 little overexposes. That's the reason I put it on minus 0.3. The Ace Pro 2 on the other hand usually delivers its best dynamic range at 0 EV. In a scene like this where highlights and shadows are fighting each other, I honestly don't see a meaningful difference in dynamic range. You might prefer the colors from one camera over the other, but that's purely personal taste. In terms of dynamic range, they are basically equal and both deliver excellent results. One thing to note though, the Ace Pro 2 has an HDR toggle. You can turn it on or off, totally your choice. The DJI Action 6 doesn't offer that option. That said, in my test, HDR on the Ace Pro 2 isn't perfect and I didn't always love the results. Image quality. In good daylight, both cameras produce fantastic image quality. I don't see a clear winner here either, but the look and the color signs are different. The DJI Action 6 looks a bit more muted compared to the Ace Pro 2's vivid color profile, which I personally love. That said, both cameras give you plenty of space to tweak the look if you don't like out-of-the-box colors. Action 6 offers 6 film tones and you can adjust the strength of each one directly in camera. Ace Pro 2 gives you a massive of 18 color profiles to choose from. Now here's a big spec difference. The DJI Action 6 supports 10-bit color depth, while the Ace Pro 2 is still limited to 8-bit. And I'll be honest, in real-world footage, I don't see a huge difference between 10-bit on the Action 6 and 8-bit on the Ace Pro 2. But if you are planning to heavily color grade your footage, you'll probably prefer the Action 6. So in daylight image quality, there is no clear winner. But what happens when we take them underwater? Before we dive into the underwater test, let me clear up one very important thing. The DJI Osmo Action 6 variable aperture does not work well underwater. Because the camera keeps trying to adapt to constantly changing light, it actually makes things worse. You get sudden exposure jumps and white balance shifts. So no, I do not recommend using auto aperture underwater. For this test, I locked the Action 6 at f2.8. Both cameras are set to 4K 60 FPS and I slowed the footage down on a 25 FPS timeline. For somehow my Osmo Action 6 recognized that I am under the water because it saw the water and it says I'm under the water by 2 meters. There's something wrong with the Osmo Action 6. I'm not in the water at the moment. And I am 2 meters under the water. It's interesting. Just like the Action 5, the Action 6 has depth and height sensors that can detect when you are underwater and it measures depth. Sometimes they get confused and think you are underwater when you are not. The Ace Pro 2 doesn't have this feature, so there is no confusion here. Action 6 waterproof up to 20 meters. Ace Pro 2 waterproof up to 12 meters. This might be a big deal for some people, but personally I don't care. I rarely go deeper than 3-4 meters, and honestly, if you are a scuba diver, even 20 meters isn't enough with a proper underwater housing anyway. The first thing I noticed, the Action 6 delivers beautiful, consistent blue tones. The Ace Pro 2 on the other hand sometimes struggles with white balance, occasionally shifting toward magenta tones. Now to be fair, the Action 6 isn't innocent either. It can shift white balance sometimes, but compared to the Ace Pro 2, it's more consistent underwater. Both cameras are sharper in the center and blurrier toward the edges. That's just the nature of action cameras, and honestly, I've started to like that look. Sometimes the Action 6 delays its exposure adjustment while the Ace Pro 2 handles exposure changes a bit more gracefully. Look at this scene. The Action 6 suddenly darkens the image and the white balance shifts when the lighting changes. But once the lighting stabilizes, the Ace Pro 2's color drift toward magenta instead. Overall, I wouldn't say these two cameras are dramatically different underwater. Both deliver really impressive results. But if I had to choose a winner, DJI Action 6 wins underwater. It offers more consistent blue tones, better color management. The front-facing white balance sensor on the Action 6 is simply doing a better job underwater. Up to this point, we really haven't seen any huge differences between these two. Just small things here and there. Nothing dramatic. But low light is where you would expect the biggest gap, right? The Action 6 has a larger sensor and its aperture can open all the way to f2. So why would anyone even think the Ace Pro 2 could compete? Well, maybe you're wrong, maybe you're right. Let's look at the footage. Both cameras offer dedicated night modes. DJI calls it Super Night. Insta360 calls it pure video mode. But before jumping into those software-based night modes, let's first see how the sensors perform in standard video mode under low light. Let's start with the sunset scene. The DJI Action 6 is clearly brighter, but also clearly softer. The Ace Pro 2 is darker, yet delivers a sharper image. Because the Action 6 pushes the brightness, it loses a bit of those beautiful sunset colors, while the Ace Pro 2 keeps the scene more cinematic and more romantic. Both cameras show noticeable noise here, and since the Ace Pro 2 looks darker, that noise is more visible on the Ace Pro 2. Now let's switch to their dedicated night modes. As it gets darker, both cameras become softer in their night modes. No surprise here. But the Action 6 delivers a much brighter image, while the Ace Pro 2 looks very dark in this scene. At times, the Ace Pro 2 gets so dark that it's hard to tell what's happening in the frame. The Action 6, on the other hand, still lets you see the scene thanks to its larger sensor and f2 aperture. Now, which one handles light jittering better due to the digital stabilization? Let's look at a scene where light sources are closer. Here the Action 6 delivers a brighter and more pleasing image overall, but it also introduces more light jittering. The Ace Pro 2, while still offering a wider field of view, shows less light jitter. That said, if you hold both cameras very steady, the DJI Action 6 looks more pleasing to my eyes. Long story short, neither camera is perfect in low light, but DJI's approach of pushing brightness gives you more visible detail simply because you can actually see what you are filming. So for low light performance, the winner of this round is DJI Action 6. Photos. The DJI Action 6 can shoot up to 38 megapixel stills, while the Ace Pro 2 goes all the way to 50 megapixel. The Ace Pro 2 also has Pure Shot mode, which is basically an HDR style photo mode, and most of the time delivers really impressive looking photos. Now when you start cropping in, you can clearly see that the Ace Pro 2 applies a lot of digital processing. Is that a bad thing? Not at all. It actually looks great, just more processed. The DJI photos, on the other hand, look slightly more natural and less digitally processed. That said, the DJI image looks darker and the blue tones aren't as punchy compared to the Ace Pro 2. When it comes to the sharpness though, honestly not much difference. Even with 38 megapixel versus 50 megapixel, I couldn't see a meaningful sharpness advantage in favor of the Ace Pro 2. Overall, the Ace Pro 2 shoots wider, the colors looks better, and the photos just feel more polished out of the camera. So while the difference isn't massive, if I have to pick a winner for photos, my go-to will be Ace Pro 2. Time-lapse. The DJI Action 6 can shoot 4K time-lapse in video format, while the Ace Pro 2 can shoot time-lapse in 8K, which is a huge win on paper. Both can shoot time-lapse in the photo format as well, and Ace Pro 2 can shoot 50 megapixel there. And honestly, I always loved the time-lapse look from the Ace Pro 2, but in this sample footage, I noticed something: the Ace Pro 2 struggles to maintain white balance, while the Action 6 handles white balance much more consistently. Does that make the Ace Pro 2 bad for time-lapse? Not at all. It just means if you are shooting time-lapse on the Ace Pro 2, lock your white balance and you're good. Another thing that makes time-lapse easier on DJI, the Action 6 has a bunch of time-lapse presets like sunset and clouds. The Ace Pro 2 doesn't have presets like that, so you will do it the classic way. Manual white balance based on your scene. Not a big deal, but it's one extra step. So for ease of use and getting reliable time-lapse quickly, I'm giving this point to DJI Action 6. This is the microphone test. Insta360 Ace Pro 2 has an amazing wind guard in front of that, and you can attach and detach it. Osmo Action 6 doesn't have that, but both set to the wind noise reduction high. It's a little bit windy. There is not much wind. Which sounds better? Okay, it's too much windy today. And the Ace Pro 2 has the HDR. You can turn it on or off, but Osmo Action 6 doesn't have this feature. Even the Osmo Action 6 used to have an HLG in the Osmo Action 5, but now they removed it. Even with the wind guard on the Ace Pro 2, the Action 6 audio sounds cleaner and clearer. That's that for series audio. I will still recommend using an external mic, something like the DJI Mic 2. Both cameras can connect to DJI Mic 2, and any sort of Bluetooth headset, like I'm using earbuds, they both can connect to that. Also, both can support dual audio, which means you can record with DJI Mic 2 or any Bluetooth audio as well as internal audio. So which one you like more, you can use that one. However, DJI Osmo Action 6 can connect to DJI mic microphones, and it can only connect one earbud or any Bluetooth headset. Good news, now both cameras support external microphones via USB-C. DJI has had this for a long time, since the Action 2, and Insta360 actually added it later through a firmware update, kind of quietly. So if you don't see the option on your Ace Pro 2, just update your firmware and it should be there. I've been using both of them at the same time, and currently the Insta360 Ace Pro 2 has only 34% battery left, and the Osmo Action 6 Pro has the 56% battery. And Osmo Action 6 has the quality priority on mode, which has better image quality, and it consumes a bit more battery. Despite this factor, Osmo Action 6 has the better battery performance, I can say that. Now let's talk about other specs, because honestly this is where your buying decision might change. The Ace Pro 2 is packed with smart, creator-friendly features. You can cancel recording with a long press. You can edit clips directly in camera, cut them into smaller clips, delete parts you don't need. You can pause recording and continue later. And here's a big one, even after you stop recording, you can go back to that same clip and continue recording on it. You can use it as a fully functional dash cam. Simply plug it into your car Type-C port. When the ignition on, it starts recording, and when the ignition's off, it stops. The Action 6 still doesn't have any of these features, but DJI fires back with something clutch. The Action 6 has 50 GB of internal storage, and trust me, this is a lifesaver when you forgot your SD card. The Ace Pro 2 has 0 internal storage. If you forget your card, game over. Now on the Ace Pro 2 side, it has a flip screen, and that's a game changer. If you're mounting the camera on the bike handle or awkward angles and want to actually see what you're filming, there's one feature on the Osmo Action 6 that almost nobody talks about. You can connect it to an external monitor via USB-C display port. This feature was already available on the Action 5, but it's still incredibly underrated. Why is this a big deal? Because I personally use the Action 6 with X-Real 1 AR glasses. I mount the camera on my head and monitor my shot completely hands-free. It's wild. And yes, I recently reviewed the X-Real 1 on my channel, so don't forget to check that out. At this point, it's clear DJI and Insta360 are in serious competition. These two cameras are closer than ever, and neither one is a bad choice. What really matters is extra features you need. Heavy color grading, go with Action 6. It has a 10-bit color. Need a flip screen? Ace Pro 2. Hate editing and want quick social clips? Just shoot, cut in the camera and put onto social media? Then Ace Pro 2. A diver or underwater shooter? Action 6 because it has better colors, better white balance. Just don't forget to lock your aperture. Whichever one you choose, you won't regret it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next episode.